Hi, friends, and welcome to Life Intended, the podcast for women on a journey to take ownership of their own lives.
We're your hosts, Kelly Berry and Sadie Wackett, leaders, coaches, friends, and women on our own journeys of self-leadership.
Here, we don't believe women need to be fixed.
We believe they need to stop seeking permission and start leading lives that they choose and they design.
Life Intended is about unlearning truths that have been handed to us and start trusting your truth and living in alignment with what matters most.
Each week, we're bringing you bold, honest conversations that challenge the stories holding you back, help you uncover and step into your own voice, your own purpose, and your own power.
From inspirational guest interviews to unfiltered chats between the two of us, you'll leave every episode with insights, tools, and the kind of encouragement that sticks.
This is your space to wake up, break free, and lead the life you were always meant to live. Let's get into it.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back. I have an incredible guest today that I know you all are going to love as much as I do. Isabella Mainwaring is an author, speaker, and respected voice in hormone science who is devoted to restoring women's health and vitality. Her work bridges hormonal physiology, trauma healing, nervous system regulation, and subconscious reprogramming to help women unravel survival patterns and reclaim authority over their bodies and lives. You can already tell why I love her so much and why you will too. After experiencing fertility challenges and corporate burnout as a strategy consultant in London, Isabella retrained in integrative nutrition, functional hormone health, and trauma and PTSD recovery. This led her to create her unique therapeutic method, ThetaSomatics, which blends brainwave science, somatics, and psychology for deep, lasting transformation. Through her writing, courses, and ThetaSomatics work, Isabella has supported thousands of women to return to clarity, energy, and full spectrum expression. Her first book, Hormone Balance for Dummies, established her as a trusted authority in the global women's health movement. She's been invited to speak at major international conferences, including the WIN Women's Congress in Paris, and her in-person retreats and immersive experiences continue to sell out to high-performing women ready to expand in a way that works with their bodies, not against them. She's born in London, raised in Australia, and now she is based in Spain. Isabella is building a worldwide movement of women reclaiming their power. And she didn't even mention she has another book coming up. So we'll let her tell you all about that. But welcome, Isabella. You have quite a background, and there's just so much overlap in our interests. And I cannot wait to have this conversation today.
Thank you for having me. I'm so thrilled to dive in. I know it's going to be a really good one.
Yeah. So tell everyone a little bit more about you. I think that was a really good overview of kind of where you are today, but tell us about how you got here and what your life has looked like up until now.
Yes. So I think the best place to start is at the moment that all of us face, like that one turning point moment where you go, okay, I'm going to make a really brave decision and I am going to just take a step into the unknown. And for me, that was when I was 22. I was at the World Economic Forum in Davos, which for those who don't know is an annual meeting of world leaders, world leading thinkers, scientists. There's usually a theme every year, whether it's, the sustainable development goals, something around equality or economic, like fiscal responsibility. And there's lots of sort of main events at the conference. And then there's lots of little side events and crazy parties in these chalets. I mean, it is sort of like the peak of corporate governance, like success. And I'm 22 thinking I've made it. And I'm there with my boss at invitation only brunch on feminine leadership and feminine success. And there's about 30 women in the room. Davos is a ski resort, so we're overlooking like snow-capped mountains. I'm thinking, my goodness, these women are who I want to be. They're all dressed immaculately and they're so powerful. And we go around the room and everyone has such a polished introduction. I'm feeling so not worthy of being there that I sort of hand the mic straight to my boss and don't introduce myself, to give you a sense of where I was at with my confidence and self-worth at the time. And then every woman, as we sort of began talking about the challenges of feminine leadership and feminine success and the barriers that they had faced in their own corporate or governance sort of journey, raised hormone imbalances. They raised autoimmune diseases, toxic relationships, divorces, imposter syndrome, chronic symptoms or chronic conditions, feeling lonely and not having nourishing friendships. It got very intimate. I think all the women there were very keen to have this discussion and be very open and honest. And I think being so young, everyone was very open and honest with me too and gave me great advice. And to be honest, that event just like shattered the illusion of the
Mhm.
version of success that we've all been given for me, because I looked at all these women and I entered the room thinking, wow, these women have made it. They're at the top of their game. They're so powerful and incredible. And then to know that every woman there was suffering with all the things that I was suffering with at just 22 years old, I thought, oh goodness, like it doesn't get any better. It actually
Mhm.
gets harder. We have to carry more. And I realized none of them had everything I wanted. None of them had the career and the health and the relationships and the confidence and self-worth. Like no one had that complete package. And I knew that that was possible, but seemingly this route was not the route to take. And at the time, I was suffering really badly with hormone issues. I had been since I was 12. You know, I was a competitive swimmer, type A, super perfectionistic, really ambitious young girl in Australia. And I'd made it in London. I was a strategy consultant for CEOs. I'm at the World Economic Forum, and my whole life path, the illusion just shattered. And I realized if I want to achieve everything I want to achieve, I can't do it this way. There has to be another way. And I'm determined to find out. And so it took me another 2 years after that to have the courage to leave my job and figure out what I was going to do next. But that was the moment I decided I'm gonna find another
Mhm.
way. That was the moment the illusion shattered, and I think the kernel of truth really dropped in my body. I had this knowing, and then the universe sort of conspired in its own way to sort of push me out of the job and onto my path. And I think everyone's purpose, if you look back at your childhood, is always there. My very first period was painful. I, out of the gate, had hormone imbalances and through puberty very quickly unraveled, like going from a very happy, healthy young girl to having a lot of health issues that I had suppressed due to my ambition till I was 22 through the pill, through antibiotics. Like I just wanted to feel better. And I ignored my mum's well, not ignored, I just wasn't very enthusiastic about my mum's attempts for me to pursue the holistic route. But, it all came back to sort of bite me on the bum, and from 22 onwards, I became very determined. But of course, no matter how healthy you are, no matter how much meditating and breath work you're doing, if you're trying to fit your body into a version of success designed for men, you're never going to feel that great. And eventually I had to quit my job at nearly 24 years old to go all in on fixing my health. And I'd fallen in love with my boyfriend at that point and realized I wanted to be a mom. And I just look back at that moment and I'm so grateful for it, because as much as it took me 2 years to find the courage to jump off, but I'm so glad that I had that knowing so young and have been able to just not waste any more time chasing a version of success that was not built for women's bodies, and finding women and mentors that have managed to sort of carve out a different way. So that was sort of the tipping point for me. And then after I quit my job, I very organically just started sharing my journey online. Like, I'm a girl with PCOS who's a corporate burnout, and I'm undoing all my conditioning telling me I need to push and be the best and ignore my body and disconnect from my body in order to succeed, and that I need to drink all the coffee and like not eat carbs and not eat fat and starve my hormones of the building blocks I need in the process. It very quickly took off on TikTok, and I grew an audience of over 200,000 very quickly. And soon girls were asking me, hey, do you mentor? And I'm going, no, I have no idea how I would do that because I'm figuring it out. But I think clearly there was an appetite for women who understood. Sometimes you go to a doctor's office and yes, they have the knowledge, but they don't have the lived experience. And all these girls were wanting was someone to validate what they were going through and just coach them through that one step ahead. And that's how my whole career began, being very open and honest and transparent and saying, this is how much I know right now, and just working together. And then that really encouraged me to get all my certifications, and I ended up putting all my symptoms into remission. I'm very happy and healthy now and developed my own way of doing things. So that's sort of the long and the short of it. But I think it's a story that's so personal to me, yet so universal. I think we all have one of those moments where we realize, okay, like this is not working for me. And we all, whether it takes us, whether we make the decision in that moment, we take 2 years like I did, or we take 10 or 20, it doesn't matter. We are all waking up to this fact in our own way and then getting onto our more aligned path in our own time when, our bodies have had enough.
Yeah. Yes. What you just said is so true. And I'm sure you can relate to this. It's like the more conversations I have like this, the more stories I hear that they're very different, but they all carry the same undertones. There's a lot of that shared experience that women, especially high achieving, high performing women who have, really just been going since they were very young. Yeah, they've all had kind of, threads of that same experience woven through their lives, and 2 things that came to mind when you were talking about being in that room full of women, uh, that I think are worth mentioning. One thing that Sadie and I, it's kind of our motto with Life Intended, is we wanna help women live lives that feel as good as they look. And
Hmm.
so what you said a lot about those women is that they look so successful. They look put together. They have polished introductions. Probably if you're looking at their LinkedIn or social media, like their life looks amazing. But then underneath it all, there's a lot of just really hard struggles or things that they're ignoring or things that they're just not attending to. And so that I think is really a universal truth that everyone that you're looking at, no matter what you think about them, there is more to the story there. And then the second thing, you talk about that like moment where everything shifted. It reminds me of like when you're a child and you have this perfect image of your parents that they are perfect and they can do no wrong. And then the first time you learn that they like made a mistake or did something wrong, it's like it's a paradigm shift. And after that moment, like, everything in your life is different, and you look at things differently, and, that can be said about, like, siblings and grandparents, but it's just like that moment where everything that you knew before then changes, and you never look at things the same again. And, sometimes I think we're in situations where that should be so obvious, and we, like, cover it up or we kind of refuse to open the lid on it because we're afraid of what we will find when we do. So those are just the things that I was thinking about as you were talking because I totally agree. I think so many of us have dealt with this. I'm 44 now, and I've kind of been on a similar journey for the past, I would say, like 3 or 4 years. And I know women who, like you're talking about, it's taken them 5, 10, 15 years to make the decision to make a change. I love what you're doing and kind of helping women along the journey, as you're going through it too, and that shared experience. So that's amazing. So talk a little bit more about once you kind of started to take off, what are the things that other women were coming to you for? What were the problems that they were experiencing that you were helping them with?
So, great question. To begin with, because my primary issue, like the one that was really frustrating me the most, was my PCOS and my painful periods and my insulin resistance. That was what I was talking a lot about online, and women were coming to me for that. And very quickly, I realized yes, we were all sharing a history of the same physical symptoms, ranging from digestive issues to the hormone issues, so PCOS, endometriosis, painful periods, insulin resistance, or trouble sleeping, or cortisol. But also, a lot of us had dealt with eczema or rosacea. We also then had a lot of the same, so we had the same physical symptoms. We also had similar psychological symptoms. So we had all dealt with anxiety, negative self talk, toxic relationships, or really anxious or avoidant attachment, maybe low moods. And then the one that really got me thinking was we had very similar relational symptoms: perfectionism, people pleasing, struggling with confrontation, or living very closed off and very sort of in fight mode, and not having great communication skills. And, not being the best at setting or holding our own boundaries. And these calls were very healing for me because I realized, wow, there is so much more to this than meets the eye. The physical symptoms are one part of it, but the sort of psychological and relational and behavioral components are all similar too. And no one is putting all of this together. No doctor ever asked me, okay, let's talk about your painful periods. And now let's talk about your perfectionism or the fact that you're not very confident or maybe the fact that you were bullied at school. No one had sort of been putting all those pieces together. And I thought, okay, they're coming to me with one symptom, but I think all of this is connected. And I had noticed it was connected in my own life. And I began piecing it together and I thought, okay, what is the root cause of all of this? If I'm a perfectionistic people pleaser who binge eats when she can't, you know, deal with her emotions, and I have PCOS and insulin resistance, and I struggle to set boundaries. Okay, if I really sit and I think about it, what is the root of all of that? And it was my mind and body don't feel safe. My hormones are out of balance because I'm living in a state of stress and hypervigilance. And the female body is, if we look in a very reductionist sense, we're here to create new life. And so, of course, our reproductive capacity and our hormones are going to be sensitive to that. And if we're stressed, then our periods are going to communicate with us that, okay, we need more nourishment or we need more rest or it's not the time to reproduce at all. So we'll take your period away or create longer cycles like with PCOS. If I'm a perfectionist and a people pleaser, that's not my personality. They're coping mechanisms because I don't feel safe to be myself, or I feel that your reaction is going to put me into, a survival response, and I'll feel that my needs aren't being met or my physical or emotional safety is compromised. And then same in relational and psychological symptoms like anxiety or overthinking or negative self-talk. All of that is just a projection of the fact that I don't feel safe to be myself and show up in the world as who I am. And I thought, okay, well, this is it. Women don't feel safe in mind and body. And we're all suffering from the same thing, no matter what these girls are coming to me with. So we started working on periods. And I did, a lot of diet and lifestyle work with them. But you can have the perfect diet and lifestyle and still have symptoms if your nervous system is in a state of hypervigilance and high alert. Cortisol's pumping out, if inflammation's rampant because cortisol's pumping out all the time. So that's when I developed my method ThetaSomatics, and I started really rewiring their beliefs with them and working with their nervous system to release unprocessed emotions and create a resilient sense of safety. And that is when transformational healing that really took my breath away started to happen. I had clients come to me with chronic migraines, and doctors had put them on seizure medication and antidepressants and all, like cancer drugs to help you with nausea from the intense medication you're on when you're going through cancer, and suddenly their migraines disappeared. Or clients were dropping like 10 kilos very quickly and their PCOS was reversing more rapidly than anything I'd ever seen, or the endometriosis was halting. And suddenly my clients were also then getting promoted at work and up-leveling and dating and just transforming their whole lives, like quitting their jobs and going for their dream careers. And I thought, okay, something incredible is happening here. We've all sort of come from this same starting point of the physical symptoms that are most frustrating, but we're transforming our lives together individually and sort of as this collective, and something really special was happening. And I realized that actually our bodies are these incredible barometers of balance in our lives. When we have physical symptoms, it's just the body's way of saying, hey, you are out of alignment individually or collectively. We have a patriarchal culture that conditions women to play small and be small and to be quiet and police each other and don't be too loud, but don't be not confident, and be ambitious, but don't be bossy. And we're just living in this web that just makes us feel so constricted and impossible. And we were just breaking through all of that. And we were focusing on nourishing ourselves with food that wasn't, sprayed with toxins, which is a very predictable outcome of a culture that prioritizes profit over well-being. Again, another feature of patriarchy. And I realized this is it. Our bodies are just saying, okay, the way that we are living as a culture is not conducive for women to thrive and therefore future women's to thrive. Actually, wow, women are leaders in our culture. Our bodies are incredible. Our bodies are literally sounding the alarm to say, hey, the way we are living is not, like, we veered too far, of course, and men aren't going to be too far behind us. And they already aren't. We see sperm count declining at an alarming rate. Male suicides in the US, I think, are 80%. And that's a statistic that's reflected across most Western countries. We look at the male loneliness epidemic, like the version of success and the way that our culture operates isn't working for anyone. And I think
Hmm.
that mental reframe also really helped my clients, because when you start realizing my body is this biologically brilliant thing that's actually just communicating with me, you then approach your healing from this place of deep self love and wonder and awe, actually. And when you're no longer swimming in those toxic survival emotions of like shame and pain and frustration, and I'm broken and I'm always going to be fat and my body hates me and I'm always the sick one, and you go, oh my God, no, I'm actually a leader in my family and my culture, and I'm a change maker and I'm a cycle breaker and I am so incredible, then again, like your healing really takes on a new speed and dimension. And I thought, okay, we're really onto something incredible here. And my work has continued to really just help women step into their power and potential, and continues to evolve with new sort of modalities and just like deep trauma healing tools. So while it all started with healing our hormones and periods, I now help women with a whole range of things. So it could be physical symptoms, but also their relational patterns or psychological symptoms or patterns. And it all, again, roots back down to the same thing. So my mission now really is helping women step into their full power and potential and realize you are powerful. And I'm building a movement called Powerhouse, which is just helping women make that identity shift to be like, okay, I am powerful. And also, I want to be around other really powerful women. And we are going to change the world by just simply changing ourselves. And isn't that amazing?
Hmm. It is. I feel like I could just sit here and listen to you talk and talk and talk. It's like I get chills when you say some of those things because it is just, it's so true and it is such important work. I mean,
And
just such important work. When you talk about, you know, like the history of women and the role of women really in the future of our species. You know, I think a lot of times we just tend to look at things on a very micro level instead of macro, and our bodies are so, so intelligent. So I want to bring up a point. You didn't mention it here, but you and I had a previous conversation and you mentioned it, and I think it's a good kind of like spin-off of your, you know, you talked about when you were younger and you were experiencing a lot of these things and you were not that excited about the things that your mom was telling you. You mentioned like, I just wanted a pill. I wanted to take something so I could move on with my life. You also mentioned your dad is a physician. And so talk a little bit about that and how kind of this, I guess, like cultural norm that we've created that there's literally a pill for everything and that, you know, if this, then this, and how that's really kind of how we've gotten to where we are, I think.
yeah, so interesting. And thank you for raising that, because my parents are, I believe we choose our parents, and my parents are exactly the people I needed in my life to create me and to birth this work. It's really quite beautiful. My father is a physician, he was an oncologist, and he saved people's lives. I worshipped him like this god, like a superman. He treated so many people in our community growing up, and everyone just adored him. And then I had my mum, who, they say opposites attract, who had put her own autoimmune condition, ulcerative colitis, into remission through a combination of Western medicine, but then a lot of integrative, holistic practices, very into yoga, has taken her health very seriously from when she was diagnosed at 18. And she's the only one of her five other siblings that have ulcerative colitis that is completely fine, because she took that Eastern integrative route. So when I was younger and I'd have a cough or a cold, my mom's giving me magnesium and honey and lemon and probiotics. And my dad's looking at her like, you're crazy, and giving her a kiss on the cheek and leaving. And so I sort of had these two perspectives on my shoulder. And my father took my health unraveling when I was 12 very seriously. He was reading a lot of papers, trying to find the best pill to put me on. We went to lots of different specialists, an endocrinologist, and then a gastroenterologist. And it was all very impressive, these people in white coats, and they had all this language, and they were able to really speak to that rational, analytical part of my brain and give me evidence. But it felt cold, and I couldn't really understand why all these people had these opinions but weren't really talking to each other, because I thought all of these symptoms, digestive issues, chronic tonsillitis, peeling hands, I thought my liver was failing, painful periods. It all started with my periods, with puberty. I developed anaphylaxis. To peanuts, I developed all these scary food allergies and intolerances out of nowhere. So I thought, well, they are linked, but then none of them are saying that. But then my mum took me to these Eastern or like more woo-woo, to use, the term, like
Mhm.
practitioners. Like she sucked me off to an energy healer in Byron Bay, which we did not tell my dad about. That was the one thing we kept from him. That was like a step too far. And everything they said made so much sense to me. They were saying, like, "How are you?" And I'm like, "I feel a lot of pressure. I'm in the Australian youth development squad for the Olympics at 13, and I'm trying to be the best daughter and the best older sister." And they were asking me about my experience with bullying and the pressure I was putting myself under and perfectionism and my emotional suppression and the fact that I didn't feel very confident using my voice. And so they were really bringing up things, and I felt very seen and very validated, but the science wasn't so much there yet at the time. They couldn't really validate that left brain part of me that was like, I need to understand the evidence. They were saying things very confidently, but I had been trained by my father. And like, I used to spend weekends in the hospital while I did ward rounds with the nurses. Like I just had that worship. And I was like, oh, but it's making sense, but there's not enough evidence. And also this feels like it's taking a while. I don't want to be taking like supplements every
Yes.
night. I don't want to drink these yucky herbal teas. I don't want to be doing meditation. I'm just a young girl. I want to have fun. I want to go back to normal. I want to feel normal. And so I put it off. It just felt too hard and complicated. And honestly, I think I was avoiding doing a lot of the deeper work that was required. And my mom knew I would come around. She was great. She didn't make me feel bad about it. She just encouraged me to keep taking my magnesium and taking care of my gut and eating my veggies. And I think, as much as that story for me is very much magnified because I had a doctor in my home, I think it speaks to the fact that our whole culture, especially through the pandemic, we've become obsessed with Western medicine, with evidence, with peer-reviewed, science-backed papers. People who don't even know what peer reviewed means throw around peer reviewed. Everyone's like, where's the peer reviewed paper on this? I'm like, why do we need a peer reviewed paper to prove that going outside and putting your feet in the ground and being in the sun and breathing fresh air is good for you? Like, when did we become so disconnected from ourselves that we need evidence that sitting at your desk for 15 hours a day behind a screen is making us sick?
Mhm.
And I think science has taken us so far, and I'm so glad everyone is appreciating it and learning how to read it and understand it. But then, we also have big agricultural companies who fund papers. You can find a study to back you up for anything now, and that is the danger of this. I think the only way you will ever get to where you want to go is realizing you are the only expert in you. You are the only one who knows how it feels in your body day to day. If something feels wrong, or you used to feel better, listen to that and trust that. And yes, it is so much easier to take some antibiotics or take a pill and make it all go away. But for what purpose? Productivity? But productivity for who and for the benefit of who? It's for the system. It's not for you. The longer term approach of actually giving your body the space and time to heal and giving it the nourishment um, it needs to produce what it has to do to make you feel better. Yeah, okay, maybe it might take a little bit longer, but ultimately you're going to live longer. You're going to feel better for longer. Short-term frustration maybe for long-term benefits. And I think we live in such a fast-paced world with a 24/7 news cycle and such a like McDonald's society where you can just like drive through and get whatever you want now at the click of a finger. But the body doesn't work that way. And if it's taken you years or decades to get to this crisis point, it might take a few weeks,
Mhm.
months, or years to undo all of the damage. And I think healing really requires that we slow down. I mean, if we look at what physicians were recommending to people in like the 16th, 17th, 18th centuries, it was go to the beach, go to the mountains, lie in the sun. World War One, the patients were out in the sun on linen sheets. They understood. They didn't need the science to know that sunlight helps people heal. And linen was a really wonderful fabric and more antibacterial than most. And I think especially for women, like you said, looking at women's history, so much of our history and so much of our knowledge has been passed down orally through birth and herbalism and like women's circles and coming together in the kitchen and understanding why your grandma's chopping up these herbs when you're sick. And so much of that was never written down. Women were purposefully kept illiterate, I believe. Knowledge was diminished and sidelined, and indigenous knowledge systems were sort of cast off as primitive, even though now we're suddenly discovering all of these things that they've been saying the whole time, like the earth has a heartbeat and putting your feet in the ground is healing and swimming in the ocean is like, oh, it's just crazy. I think you just got to get back into your body, back
Mhm.
into the body. And I'm not saying don't use Western medicine. I mean, it saves me every 6 months when I have an anaphylactic episode when I eat something I shouldn't with peanuts in it. I think it's just about understanding that you've got to use the best of what Western medicine has to offer, understand its strengths and weaknesses. It's curative, it's siloed, and then use the balance of the Eastern and holistic practices to create a really healthy baseline of routines and nourishment that are actually going to support you in the long term. And we all need to get better at living in our own bodies and tracking our symptoms and becoming the keepers of our own healing wisdom, because ultimately, people in the medical field are overworked and underpaid and exhausted, and they don't have the mental bandwidth to take on your whole medical history. And I think we all need to be taking a little bit more like personal responsibility when it comes to our health rather than hoping these things are just going to patch us up and keep going, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I love how you've mentioned several times, like, getting back into our bodies, and I know that that's a big part of your theta somatic work in general is, we have over, I don't know, the past just couple of decades, it's happened really quickly, but we've kind of been stripped of our self-trust and our connection to our knowing and our intuition, and how important that is to get back to that and really sit in your body because everything is connected. There is a time and place. I'm with you, like, I think there's a time and place for Western medicine, and there's a time and place for Eastern medicine, and if you can kind of get back into yourself and understand, like, okay, if now is a time where I need to take a pill for something, what else is going on? What do I need to be, like, kind of in touch with again? Maybe I am pushing too hard or not resting enough, or maybe I'm in a stressful relationship or there's a stressful situation at work, or just something that I need to stop and, like, step back from and connect to. I think that that is so important, and that it really does, giving yourself that space and time for that connection to think about, like, how do I feel? What do I want? What do I need? We are so intelligent if we will stop and give ourselves the opportunity to be, and we're just, like, going so fast, we don't do that.
Absolutely. I think one one thing that really blew my mind was learning that your body, your nervous system specifically, is actually responsible for 80% of your body's signals. I grew up learning through biology at school and classes when I was doing psychology units at university that your sort of brain was the command center. When in fact, your brain is only responsible for 20% of the signals. 20% go down to the body, 80% go up to the brain from the body. So the body carries an enormous like wellspring of knowledge. And if you can just create the space and time to listen, it will speak to you. In fact, I actually have a free ThetaSomatics practice called Transforming Stress into Softness that anyone can download from my social media or on my websites that guides you into this state of relaxation, bathes you in oxytocin, and it actually allows your body to speak to you. And you'll be surprised if you simply ask your body questions like, where are you feeling overwhelmed? Where are you feeling strain? What are you missing? What do you need more of? What boundaries do I need to set? The answers will come through to you if you can get to that place of stillness. We all know the answers. We all know exactly what we need to be doing. We truly do. Or we know, hey, I need to go to a doctor, I need to go to a naturopath, and I need to get some bloods done. Like that in itself is an action step. You might not know you're deficient in vitamin D, but you know you need the blood panels. So your body, you always know, and we all need to learn actually to stop trying to outsource that to other people. Like I think we're also conditioned to have everyone solve our problems for us, especially as women. Like we never know enough and we shouldn't trust our instincts. And if you can just let the body speak, the answers are there. And if you take the action, your transformation will happen. If you keep getting that intuitive hit that you need to take some time off or set some boundaries or delegate more at work, do that. That is all your body trying to help you get back to balance and homeostasis, just as much as the nudge that you keep getting to food prep is, or the nudge you keep getting to go and get that scan that you've been putting off for a couple of months now. And I'm always so happy when I get emails from people that have tried the free practice being like, wow, so much clarity came through. And it wasn't anything new necessarily. It just was everything that had kind of been popping into my awareness and I'd been brushing off. And like, I took the action steps and I'm feeling so much better. Thank you. And I'm like, isn't that amazing that you now get to become the only expert in you and you get to become a partner with your body and listen to what it's saying and have this really beautiful relationship with it. Like study after study shows that the more you love your body, the more you listen to it, and the more you appreciate it, the better your health outcomes.
Yeah. So I could go on and on about this, and I do in a lot of podcasts, so I won't this one. I'm sure my listeners have heard it, but I am totally with you that we outsource our knowing to everything, and I talk about it a lot. There is no other thing that women have more intuition about than becoming a mother, and how much we've been stripped of our knowing by social media and by experts, and how we think that we need to be asking a Facebook group something about our child instead of stopping to think, what do we think? Like we're the experts in our own body, but we're also the experts in our children, and we know. And I have a lot of thoughts about that, and I think my audience understands my stance on that. But I think, to your point, our bodies are amazing. There is so much in our bodies that tell us things and give us information. Sadie, my partner, and I talk about this a lot. Just paying attention to, where do you feel something in your body when you're in a conversation with somebody, or when you kind of get into that fight or flight mode, or when something just doesn't feel off. Like, take a minute. Are you feeling it in your stomach? Are you feeling it in your heart? Are you feeling it in your head? Where does that tension come from? Because it's all feedback. It's all telling you something. And if you stop and kind of listen for a minute, it will give you a lot of information about, like, maybe you do need to make a change or step away or something like that. So yeah, all very, very important. And I think that the work that you're doing, and really kind of the awareness that's being raised about that, I think is just moving us all in a better direction. We have a lot of ways to go there for sure. I do want to give you a minute to talk a little bit more about ThetaSomatics and, like, what it is, because that's your own methodology, right? Yes. So talk
Yeah,
to us about that.
absolutely. So, on my own healing journey, I tried every single thing I could to help regulate my nervous system. And I was following all the traditional advice of the 5 a.m. morning routine and the breath work. And in my consulting days, I had the craziest morning routine. I would get up at 4:50 and go downstairs and do highest self or inner child healing meditation. And then I'd do some somatic work and go to Pilates and walk to work. And it was wild. And I would go to work, my very stressful consulting job, feeling really confident. And within an hour, I'm dysregulated. Within an hour, I'm spiraling. I've had an email in a tone I didn't like. I'm in a meeting room doing some breathing. And I'm like, this can't be right. I'm trying so hard and nothing is working. And I realized, luckily at the time, I was consulting for one of the world's largest research publishing firms. I had access to all the latest stuff, all the latest journals completely for free. And I got to speak to scientists and researchers every single day for my job. Amazing. So I went on a mission to figure out, okay, what's happening here? And I realized I was trying to regulate and sort of expand my nervous system's capacity in the way that works for men. Very dopamine driven, very linear, set goals, achieve them, have consistent morning routines, get that dopamine hit of, running things off your to-do list. It was too harsh. And what happens with women when we try and regulate through dopamine alone is we get these very high highs of this sense of achievement and we're on top of the world, like I felt going into my work in the mornings, and then we crash or we get really burnt out. And in fact, our nervous systems, women's nervous systems, are wired for connection through oxytocin, the love and bonding hormone that we experience through pregnancy and breastfeeding, and when you're cuddling a pet or laughing with friends. And if you look at what has really been happening the last few years with the Wicked movie, the Barbie movie, the Taylor Swift concerts, this sort of resurgence of girlhood culture, book clubs, book talk, fantasy novels, we're all really collectively craving oxytocin. That's why we love brunch with friends and we love Pilates and yoga. And I thought, okay, So the oxytocin element is missing. And so I started playing with my meditations and really learning a lot about neuroscience and the nervous system. And I'm like, okay, so the subconscious mind where my beliefs live that are dictating my responses to my stress at work, those need to be rewired. Why does my boss's email trigger me and not my friend? It's because I believe if I'm not perfect, I won't be loved and my safety is threatened. So rewiring my beliefs had to be a part of it. Regulating my nervous system through oxytocin-based practices like dancing or movement or embodiment or self-touch, that had to be a part of it. And having some music to help with that release. But so did fun. This whole get up and have the 5-step morning routine and the breath work, like that very masculine model of things, it just wasn't making me feel safe and I wasn't looking forward to it. And so ThetaSomatics was really born through me trying everything and it not working, and then combining a whole bunch of different tools and science and practices. So within ThetaSomatics, we have breath work, but we're rewiring your subconscious at the same time. And we're really making sure you're bathed in oxytocin while we're doing it. We also have movement, sort of yoga-based practices to release unprocessed emotions. We've got some fun embodiment dancing, like goddess mode practices that help you feel really magnetic and help normalize and familiarize that confidence in your nervous system. So we're doing a lot at once. We're changing your beliefs, we're regulating and expanding your nervous system, and we're sort of clearing that debris of the unprocessed emotions living in your body. Because I thought healing doesn't have to be complicated. You don't need the 5-step morning routine. Ancient cultures knew how to do this. If you look at any Indigenous culture, and I was very lucky to grow up in Australia surrounded by Indigenous and Aboriginal people who are just incredible. There's so much movement and expression and communal singing and drumming and women's circles, all things that we're intuitively being drawn to now in our culture. And that's what ThetaSomatics really is. It's steeped in so much neuroscience and so much research and physiology, and it's the number one sort of hormone informed nervous system method. It's very oxytocin forward. I don't know of anyone else doing it the way that we're doing it. It is truly so unique. And my partner practitioner, Mary Raposta, who used to be a lecturer in psychology at UCL, has come on to make sure that we are so steeped in the science and sort of backed by the most up-to-date evidence as possible. It's just, but it's also fun, it's also really fun, and I look forward to doing it every day, and there's something for whatever mood I'm in. If I want to do a ThetaSomatics meditation to understand what my sort of phase of my menstrual cycle is trying to tell me, I have that. If I have one that I want to do before I get on a podcast to feel myself, I have that. If I have some that I want to do some more like deeper trauma healing work and really rewire my beliefs and move me through that contraction and armoring and defensiveness, we have those too. So it's all encompassing. And I think just taking women back to their roots, I ask all my clients, like, when did you stop dancing? When did you stop dancing and singing and having fun? Because that is sort of that core time of wounding for you, and let's bring it back. You don't even have to be doing a ThetaSomatics practice every day. If you're in my world, you can just put on music and dance in your lunch break. That is a somatic practice. Like, put on your favorite song and just dance around. I think we've overcomplicated healing so much. And really, it's just about you getting back into your body and having fun and just learning that if you get an email at work and you're triggered and it happens over and over again, that is a pattern that you've learned and you can unlearn. Like, there is no part of you that is fixed. You can continue to grow and evolve and change and expand and step into your power. And that's what I love so much about ThetaSomatics and my Powerhouse portal, my membership, and the women in there, is we're constantly creating new tools for whatever challenge they're facing, whatever comes up, as we all, as a collective of women around the world, are sort of stepping into new levels and realizing all of these challenges we're coming up against and trying to, change our families and communities and workplaces. And I'm so excited to see where it leads. It's a very co-creative thing. As much as I'm creating practices that work for me based on the latest stuff, I'm creating it with them, and I love that so much. It just feels like this beautiful like revolution of women saying, I'm going to step into my most powerful identity. And yeah, it's just the most fulfilling thing ever. And I think for anyone listening, if you are struggling to find your like quote unquote purpose or figure out why you're here, like look back to your childhood. I was just like the weird little fairy girl dancing in her bedroom and singing, had period problems. Like it was all there, like all the ingredients were there. And I promise you, like the ingredients are there for you too. And it will all unfold as it should. And you're exactly in the right place at the right time.
Yeah, yeah, that's such great wisdom to share. And I want to touch on, you mentioned a morning routine several times, and this has been something that has also come up a few times recently. But I think as I was listening to you, it's like, well, what if we just reframe this? So I listened to a podcast not too long ago, and the podcast host was going over her morning routine, and it was 2.5 hours long. And I'm like, who has time for a 2.5 hour morning routine? Like, what benefit is this to share this routine of like a life that is not real? And so it just really got me thinking as you were talking. It's like I think that there are huge benefits of routine things. There are so many benefits that the structure of a routine can provide for a lot of people, but instead of thinking of it like a morning routine, what you just described with ThetaSomatics is like a life routine. You're not trying to get this all done in the morning. You're trying to integrate this into your entire life so that you stay regulated and you stay healthy and you stay in touch with who you are and what you want. And what a much better and less pressure way to think of it.
Absolutely. I think if you're similar to how I used to, if you're using a 2 hour morning routine to help you survive the day, then there's some trauma healing and sort of work on contraction that we need to be looking at. There's something deeper. For me, my morning routine and my life now is a ritual. I get up every day and I'm like, what does my body need? You know, there are different practices that I sort of have within rotation. So maybe it's an hour walk without my phone. Maybe it's a theta somatics practice. Maybe my body's feeling tight and I just need to get on my yoga mat and stretch and listen to some slow meditative music or some affirmations. I put no pressure on myself. I'm like, what does my body need? I am very firm that like the only thing my morning is for is getting my energy right. It doesn't matter what that looks like. Your energy is your most precious currency. Your energy is everything. It is the key to your success, your happiness, your health. So it could be actually, you know what? I just want to put on some music and dance and then take an hour to cook a really nice breakfast and just chop vegetables slowly. I don't ever shame myself for not getting things, perfectly. I just make sure that I'm listening to what my body needs. And sometimes for a few weeks, when I was writing my second book, that looked like a morning routine. I had a sort of theta somatics practice I was doing every day to help me move through that up level of writing this book. And then my body said, okay, I kind of need to integrate that. And I was like, great. And then I just went for walks every morning without my phone. And that was it. So allow your life to be a ritual, to have touch points throughout your day. For me, I make sure to take a break in the middle of every day to dance or move or do some exercise or just go for a quick walk around the block and get into my body without screens and have things in the evening that you do. I think viewing your life as a ritual romanticizes it and makes it feel really soft and fun and safe, creating those touch points for oxytocin. Could just be putting on your favorite comedian and having a good laugh in the evening is really helpful, because if we're setting ourselves these calendars and rituals and habits and things we need to do every day and then we're shaming ourselves for not doing them, we're just keeping ourselves in a place of stress, and we're trying to use these things to reduce stress. So if you're ever beating yourself up for not getting it right, then that's an invitation to have a look at some beliefs there and like dig into why you're shaming yourself and where that voice is coming from. And if it's even yours at all, just be kind to yourself, really just be kind to yourself. I think so many women get stuck in like analysis paralysis. They go online and they see another habit to integrate, another wellness tool. And now we're doing gua sha and lymphatic drainage and we're meditating and infrared all at once. And it's like,
Like habit stack, habits.
yeah, exactly, and it's so masculine and whatever makes you feel good, but don't shame yourself if you need to shake it up for a week or 2, or if things change or drop off. Just be like, "Okay, it's what my body needed today, move on. End of story, all good."
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, what it sounds like to me, it's like it's a method, not a practice necessarily. So you're moving in the direction of an outcome. I would like to ask you, because I know a lot of my listeners are moms and are in corporate, and maybe their morning doesn't allow for taking a long, slow stretch or cooking a meal for an hour. So, what are some things that I'm sure you work with moms and really busy women? What are some things that they do that kind of also help them to manage their energy for the day while also navigating like the chaos of getting kids ready for school and everything that comes along with that?
Yeah, absolutely. That is something I'm very cognizant of. And I think one of the biggest, not objections, but like sticky points I come up with clients, especially moms or women who are just working very intense jobs is I don't have time. And I'm like, you do have time, but it's just going to take boundaries and it's going to take detoxing, delegating and ditching things that are out of the way. I'm not saying you need an hour. You just need 15 minutes and it can literally just be playing music while you're in the shower and like dancing in the shower. It can be putting some headphones in and just taking 5 minutes to shake your whole body and do some loud exhales. It doesn't have to be anything complicated or over the top, just movement and breath. You've got to speak to the language of the body through movement and breath. So I have a whole playlist of ThetaSomatics practices that are under 10 minutes for women to just dip into in their mornings. They can do them walking, they can do them in the park, they can do them in bed, they can do them in their living room, like wherever and in whatever way that works for them. Because this work has to work for you ultimately.
Mhm.
I think sleep is like the most important thing. So movement and breath, speaking the languages of the body and just making yourself feel good. Like if dancing to your favorite song every day is all you can do, that is more than enough. That is
Mhm.
excellent. So many people don't do just the basics, which is getting that dopamine and oxytocin going. So you're already doing, if you can just start your day with dance, you are ahead of, not that it's a race or a game or, comparative, but like you are ahead of the game in terms of your own energy and mood for the day. So don't put pressure on yourself to think you need to take an hour to cook breakfast like I do. That is a luxury. I am going to milk for as long as I can before I have children and life gets busy. But just making sure as well, I think if you are time poor in the mornings, the middle of your day, that really just try and find 5 minutes. Even if you
Mhm.
need to go into your car and just sing a song or do a quick meditation, you can find them on YouTube, just carving time in the middle of the day to just come back to your baseline and keep carrying you through. That's often more effective than having like the longer morning routine. It's just taking 2 or 5, 10, 15 minutes throughout the day as often as you can. Quick walk around the block. Again, like just do what feels good. What do I need right now? Do I need to go and scream into a pillow? Go and do that. Do I need to throw a pillow up and down on the bed? Go and do that. Like, just move your body, move the energy out of your
Mhm.
body, move your emotions, call a friend. And just know that if you're a mom, you're incredible and you're doing amazing. And yeah, you are just doing just fine, I promise.
Yeah, yeah. When you're talking, it makes me think, like, not every day, but a lot of times in the morning, I have 3-year-old daughter, and she'll be like, "Mommy, let's dance," and it's like she's doing that, like, that's natural to her, and so we always have music on, and so she's always either singing or dancing or and sometimes I'll stop what I'm doing, and we'll, like, have a little dance, and it does make me feel happy. Sometimes I'm like, "In a minute, I'm doing something," it's like, well, maybe for me, that would be like when she says that, like, my answer is yes, and I do it, and that's part of my routine, so, yeah.
Yes, we learn so much from children. We are educated out of all of our like most primal wiring, which is when we're angry, we stomp and we yell and we shout and we scream. Is it appropriate to do it in the supermarket? And is that behavior we should be encouraging? Not necessarily, right? But kids do need to learn that if they are frustrated or angry in a safe space in their bedroom or at home, they can. And it's very healthy to let those emotions out. And I think it's such a gift to be a parent in that way of like you just get to reparent your own inner child and give your own self permission to share your emotions and dance in the kitchen and scream in the car and along to your favorite song. And it's like they're healing us just as much as we're teaching them. So I love that so much.
Yeah, definitely. Well, thank you. I know we're at time past time. It's been a great conversation. When Isabella and I had a conversation just kind of about the podcast and to get to know each other, I was like, "Do you need a best friend?" It's gonna be a little hard because she's in Spain, but I really could talk to you, listen to you. I'm gonna download the ThetaSomatics practice. It is in the show notes, but so that is a great segue. Like, tell everyone where they can find you. I know you mentioned you're on TikTok. How can people like stay in touch, learn from you, and stay connected?
Yes. So my website's isabellamannering.com. I'm also on Instagram and TikTok at isabella.mainwaring. And I've got my Powerhouse portal, which is my membership, where you have the whole library of ThetaSomatics practices and my unique root restoration framework for healing your hormones as well. And that's, you're really tackling like hormones, subconscious nervous system, community. It really is geared to you stepping into your full power and potential. But what I'm most excited about right now is not only do I have my Hormone Balance for Dummies book that came out in February of this year, men, women, children of all ages, like a great hormone Bible for the whole family, everyone you know. I have my second book coming out, and it's called The Power We Hold, Claiming Our Health from a System That Fails Women. And I'm so proud of it. It is the stories of women in my community and women all over the world who healed what people told them that they couldn't and have really stepped into their power. And I take you through my root restoration framework, but it's also the history of women and the power in our bodies, the power we do hold, how intelligent and biologically brilliant your body is. And on the other side of the book, you will be a completely different person. You will be feeling so empowered and just so in love with your body and your life and your potential. And I can't wait for everyone to have it. The pre-orders will be out by the time this podcast's out, so you can pre-order now. And I encourage you to do so and share it with the women in your life that you think really need to hear the message that you've heard on the podcast today. This book is our book. I wrote it very much for it to be one that we all pass to each other and really start a conversation between women. And it's the continuation of a long conversation we've been having for centuries about women's power and our bodies and our biology. And I'm so honored to be contributing to that lineage, and I can't wait to see what women think of it when it comes out into the world and how it helps sort of kickstart further conversation and more women stepping into their power and potential. So that's my big project and my big focus right now. And I'll be sharing more on my Instagram and TikTok and my weekly newsletter as well, Powerhouse, which you can sign up to, which is more of like behind the scenes. Like I'm always giving you tips and tricks and just sharing what's going on with me. So yeah, they're all my touch points. And I've just loved this conversation. I love talking to you. I feel like I'll be begging you to come back as soon as possible so we can hang. So thank you so much for
Yeah.
your amazing questions.
Yeah, this has been great. And what I heard is everyone buy the book and also give one to everyone you know for Christmas this year. So that sounds great. And for those of you that are in book clubs or have book clubs, this sounds like an amazing, amazing book club read as well. Conversations that can be sparked from it. Yeah, and the change that I know it will make. So I'm excited for it for sure. Thank you so much. I mean, a collective thank you for all the work that you're doing and all the awareness that you're raising and the healing that's happening as a result of your journey and your intelligence and everything, your lived experience. So thank you for leaning into your calling and helping really to make women healthier and the world better. It's incredible. So I'm happy to know you and thanks for being here.
Well, thank you so much, Kelly. I could cry. That was so beautiful. No, I've loved this discussion. And yeah, I'm very honored to have been here and so thrilled to be a part of this community.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank
And
you.
yeah, we'll talk to you next week. Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to Life Intended.
If something from this episode landed with you, stirred something up, or gave you a new perspective, share it, tag us, leave a review. That's how this work reaches more women who really need it.
Life Intended is more than just a podcast. It's a movement back to self-trust, personal power, and living with intention.
We're just getting started.
So keep showing up, keep tuning in. If you're ready for more support on your path, head to lifeintended.co. We've got tools, community, and programs to meet you where you are. Until next time.